Before you make your first cut, you've already made a decision about how your timeline is gonna work, even if you don't realize it. Most editors just start, and around episode 3 or reel 4, that timeline becomes a thing slowing you down. I've used this layout across feature films and scripted TV shows. It's the one thing I typically set up once and never think about again. Here's my exact layout. Right, so I'm gonna be using the latest version of Avid Media Composer because that's what I use to cut feature films and scripted TV shows. In this case, I used it to cut this short film. So let's just take a look now here at the video section first. One thing that I'll say is that I like to have my video tracks a little smaller than the audio tracks because I usually have a lot of audio tracks. And so I don't want to have to be like scrolling up and down, from the timeline to see all the tracks. And so I've gotten used to just having the video tracks a little smaller than the audio tracks. And also because in the audio tracks, I'll typically go in there and like do, keyframes. So I like to have them a little bigger. Let's just start here then with V1 and V2. And I have them labeled as drama because these are the two video layers that I use for daily. So this is the footage that was shot by production. This is where I cut in all my shots, all my takes, and the main layers for crafting a story. I do try to keep it to 2. In fact, I'm very strict about that. I know a lot of editors, myself, included, we like to try things, right? So sometimes we like kind of get crazy and like start throwing in, a bunch of clips and takes because we're experimenting. And so then suddenly we can have like a couple of layers of video, right? Then things start to get messy. So sure, I might try things and experiment and with different takes, but in the end, I make sure that I kind of collapse it to 1 or 2 video layers. V3 here is FX. So this is where I place any Avid effects or filters, right? So stuff like say resizing, right? Or any maybe color effects that I don't actually place on a clip, I'll place it as a layer. So I dedicate a track specifically for that. Then I have a V4 here, and I say mask because in this case, this was shot in a 2:40 aspect ratio, the short film was. And we had a lot of different footage. We had, stuff shot on many cameras. Not everything was in that 2:40 aspect ratio. And aside from that, we also did a lot of resizing, right, of shots. Or the way I like to do it is just like having a video layer where I do put in this mask. In this case, for this short film, was a 2:40 mask. I know some people like to have that mask across the whole timeline, which is fine. I've gotten used to just doing like segments, for a specific clip. So if I only use or resize like a clip, I only use the mask for that section. V5 here, I have subs. It's for subtitles. In this case, this film was in Spanish, and so we had English subtitles. V6 is text, and well, first of all, you can see here, for example, the film title, Sin Aliento, which I just did it in Avid. That's what I would put on that layer, or I would put any locator. Say like if we're in a specific city with the name of the city, or any other text, I will put it on V6. Here, V7, we have TC, time code. So it's the time code track, as you can see here. It's for exports. So when we export, an episode or a film or reel, whatever it is, or just even a scene, anything for reference, it's good to have time code on it. So that's what it is. And that one, yes, I definitely put on the entire, across the entire timeline. This layer, though, will come later. Like once I've gotten to a point where I'm ready to say, export the film, right? So this comes at the kind of at the end of the process. But it's you're definitely gonna have it because as you then start finishing the film or you start sending stuff out, doing exports, you're gonna want to have that time code layer. Before we move on to audio, I want to say that, I have this amount of layers because that's all I needed for this short film. But, for say a bigger budget project, say like a Netflix show, I would probably have more video layers. And typically it's the FX or VFX layers. I think even in my last show, I had several VFX layers. So it's like we had a layer for like any temp work that our VFX editor did. Then like another layer for like VFX that would come in from the vendor, any say VFX shots that were being worked on, and then for multiple versions. So that can get pretty heavy. But in this case, it wasn't VFX heavy, this short film. So really don't have besides just the Avid FX layer, which is just for like Avid FX. So like any resizes, again, color. But if we had like actual VFX shots, say any comps, any like say muzzle flashes, stuff like that, or flames, anything, I would have a dedicated layer for that. All right, let's move on to audio. This is much simpler. My goal on a project is to have no more than 16 tracks. That's something that I learned as an assistant editor. I learned that from other editors, because again, I do not want like a massive like timeline where I have to be scrolling. I prefer not to, right? It doesn't mean that, that's going to happen and I can't have more tracks. I just try to avoid having more than 16. I do not like having a massive timeline because it makes it easier to navigate with less tracks. I have been on projects where I've gone beyond 24 tracks. But anyways, those are just goals, personal goals that I have. But let's kick it off here with the first couple audio tracks. We'll go with A1, A2, and A3. And here I have them for dialogue, DX. This production sound dialogue that was recorded on set. Then after that, I have ADR, right? And so that's automated dialogue replacement. So sometimes, say, if they didn't capture, record, or a certain line of dialogue on set, we'll add it ourselves here in editorial. Either I'll record it, my assistant will record it, my wife will record it, my mom will record it. All those lines of dialogue of ADR will get replaced eventually by the actors, right? But in the meantime, just, for reference, we'll do that here in editorial. And so I have a dedicated track for that. So I can just keep track of all the ADR lines that have been recorded so that then eventually when we have to make a list for, say, the actors to record these lines, it's just easy. It's just you pick that, that track. Those are all your ADR lines, right? And I'll even put markers on them. Makes it very easy. Then, of course, this is where it gets, we get heavy, right? With the sound effects track. In this case, I have 5 through 16. This short film has some car racing sequences, so, I had to use a little bit more sound effects tracks. That would be my limit. Again, this project needed that, required that. Now, one other thing that I'll say, because I didn't mention this from the get-go, was that dialogue and sound effects, I do mono. That's what I like, and that's what I'm doing. I know people will not agree with me, especially with the sound effects tracks. That's how I do it. But then the music tracks, yes, I have those in stereo. I have tracks 17, 18, and 19. 19, as you can see, it says verb. That's reverb. That's because I use this track to apply a reverb effect to the entire track. So anything that goes on that track, in this case music, because it's just dedicated for music, will have a reverb effect on it. Track 19, here as you can see, has that deverb effect on it, and that you can now hear that reverb on the entire track. So and that typically is then the last audio track, on my timeline. So if this case, for example, like if I had 24 tracks total, then, I would have that 24th track as the reverb track. Also, what I like to do is set up, presets, these timeline presets, where I'll have, I mentioned like the sizing of the track. So to be just moving faster, I'll have presets so that, for example, like there will be a preset where I have all the tracks are small, so they all fit. Or I have a preset where, you know, the video tracks are really small and, you know, the audio tracks are larger. It's just a good way to, you know, switch between those presets, timeline presets. So then you don't have to like manually, you know, be there changing tracks all the time. Now, I guess while we're here, we'll talk about the color of the clips and the tracks. Honestly, as long as I have a color to differentiate, like say dialogue, sound effects, and music, I'm fine. I'm not a stickler with like what color, unless like say the production itself of like editorial, you know, sets up a color code or a system for tracks and markers. I kind of just pick like what I'm feeling like that day, like what I like. The point is, more than anything, is just to be able to see with the colors, be able to tell right away, all right, I can see my music tracks, my sound effects tracks, and my dialogue tracks. Like in this case, you know, I can just, I don't know, it's very easy for me to tell, you know, what I'm looking at. You know, the main thing is this organization and being able to be efficient as you are editing, but also then eventually when you start delivering stuff, right? It just makes it easier for everyone, for yourself, for your assistant, much more efficient. And also it just makes it much more enjoyable. And you know, by it being easier to navigate, you're not stressed out trying to find clips and move stuff around and what is what. You know, it's just a much better experience if you can get down, you know, have a nice timeline, and just in general have an organized project. I have several videos here on the channel about project organization. Make sure to check them out. All right, so that's how I set up my timeline for cutting feature films and scripted TV shows. How do you like to set up your timeline? Let me know in the comments below. Also, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you found this helpful. And also make sure to check out HollywoodEditingMentor.com for more resources that'll help you level up your editing career. I'll see you in the next video.